Howdy, welcome back to another episode of Dabbler Double Take. Last time, Brian helped convince me, a cider skeptic, that European cider has a lot more to offer than just the super cloying taste of Strongbow. We tried some stuff from France, we tried some stuff from Spain, and even another cider from the UK. And I gotta say, starting to come around a little bit on cider. If you want to see more about those ciders, learn a little bit about all that European cider has to offer, check out our last episode. It's going to be a button right there, as well as you can check out the playlist for Dabbler Double Take to find the episode as well. This week, however, I was hoping that Brian could tell me a little bit more about ciders made right here in the US of A, because to be honest, I don't want to have to worry about getting an import bottle every time I want to try a cider. I don't have to do that for beer. I shouldn't have to do it for cider either. So, Brian, I think you've got some ciders for us that are from right here in America, and maybe even a little closer than that.
We do. 3 ciders from Minnesota that we're going to try today, and it's going to run the whole gamut of flavor profiles here. So you're going to be in for a ride. Buckle up.
Sounds great. So in the first episode of our little cider exploration here, I was explaining to Brian that the only cider that I'd really had before we started filming this was Strongbow. That's super boring. I was comparing it to Martinelli's apple juice, a juicy juice apple juice type of flavor to it. It just kind of tastes one note, very sweet, a little bit cloying. And so I'm hoping to find some stuff made right here in Minnesota that does something a little more interesting than that.
Absolutely, and I think we've all started here with Strongbow, but don't let this be your barometer for what cider can be. In fact, let's just move this out.
Get out of here.
So we're gonna start with the cider from Minneapolis. Number 12's Voyage. It's a dry cider made in the North Loop, and this is gonna bring a real great apple flavor, but not be cloyingly sweet like the Strongbow and those other sort of English mass-produced ciders. So give this a whiff and let me know what you're smelling.
Okay, yeah. Definitely much drier than the Strongbow. There's a nice sharp bite to it. Sort of a little bit of a sour tang, but it's not a fully sour like some of those European ciders that we tried in the last video. This one has a nice balance of tartness with just a little hint of sweetness on the back.
Yeah, and just enough tannin to give it some kind of structure to it. But yeah, it's way dry, almost bone dry. It does have just like a little bit of perceived sweetness there to just take the edge off of the acid, but the acid is punchy and it lifts that apple flavor all the way to the top, so it's just this beautiful apple high note. It's really quite a lovely cider.
So I don't know if you know this, but are the way that they're making this number 12 cider somewhat similar to how they would make those ciders that we tried last week? Are they doing cool things with apples here in Minnesota that we should know about at number 12?
I mean, it's a blend of heirloom and table varieties of apples. They're using commercial yeast, which is different from, say, the Spanish style, which is naturally fermented with wild yeast strains. So it's got more control and a little bit more able to replicate it from batch to batch. And yeah, I mean, it certainly is in that sort of traditional cider making territory that those old European ciders.
Cool. Well, I gotta say, my home city of Minneapolis seems to be doing a pretty good job in the cider game. That's great. So for folks that like this, maybe want to try branching out into something that's got a little bit funkier of a flavor, what else do you got for me?
Yeah, so just like the craft beer landscape has gone kind of like off the deep end, sort of jumping the shark with the flavor profiles.
Say that again.
Cider can get pretty wild too. And so we're gonna go up to Duluth cider. This is a chai spiced cider.
Ooh, interesting.
We're gonna find out if these flavors kind of meld together, if they play well together.
When I think of chai tea, I think of autumn, and those kind of like warm fireplace, campfire type of flavors. So that's also when I think of drinking cider around the fall. So maybe this will be a good pairing combo because of that.
Yeah.
You can definitely smell the chai spice. That is sitting right on top of there.
Yeah, it's just bursting from the glass. And there's just a little apple character that is like running underneath it. It almost is like fresh baked apple pie, that aroma that like sort of fills the kitchen, very spicy and appley.
It does, especially with the chai spice combined in there. I was a little worried when I first sipped this because the smell of the chai is very strong. I was worried I was gonna get a really sweet, you know, like a chai latte type of flavor from it. And it's really more of the spice mixture itself. It's got that kind of baking spice, maybe even like a little bit of savory kind of curry type of spice mixed in there.
Yeah, I mean, that might be like cardamom or something like that has lends a little bit more of a savory note. And it certainly does. I mean, it's got a little bit more of a bitter character. I almost put it to like Campari or Aperol.
Yeah.
Like in the realm of liqueurs. And so it's kind of working for me. It's not sweet. It has a sort of like nice, sharp bitterness. And everything is playing nicely together here.
I think this would be a good way to convert folks like me who were somewhat cider skeptical, but wanted to be able to dive into the world of cider with a flavor that they were familiar with. So chai tea, everybody's had that, they know what it tastes like. Diving into a cider, but with like the chai holding your hand, not a bad way to do it.
It's pretty great. Now for our last bottle, we're gonna go to Webster, Minnesota. Go to Sweetland Orchard. Now this is a cherry rhubarb.
Ooh, fruited, look at that color.
And it is beautiful in the glass.
Wow, gorgeous. Like almost a rosé, if I had to describe the color on it. It looks very similar to a rosé wine. Big vinegar note on the nose there. That kind of maybe red wine vinegar, jammy type of note from the rhubarb, perhaps. Interesting. The rhubarb flavor comes through in that kind of desserty rhubarb type of flavor, like a rhubarb crumble or something like that. That's the kind of like some semi-sweet rhubarb flavor that I'm getting there. But you also get some of that sour tang from the rhubarb too, which is, you know, you think of that, is it a fruit or a vegetable? I actually have no idea. A root?
Definitely a plant.
Plant, okay. You definitely get that sour tang that you're familiar with rhubarb in this. And it's nice. It's a nice compliment to the apple.
And you know, the cherry kind of brings a sort of earthiness to it. You can definitely get like cherry skin, dark cherry skin that is kind of underlying this whole thing and kind of giving it that sort of perceived bitterness. The apple is like really taking sort of a back seat. It's
very mellow.
Yeah, very mellow. You know, kind of all melds together in a nice sip.
This reminds me of my grandparents had a place in Wisconsin near where they produce a lot of cherries up in Door County, and I always remember during the cherry harvest and kind of the smell in the air, and like you said, you'd bite into one and you might hit the pit. That kind of bitterness that you get from the cherry here does remind me of that cherry pit type of flavor. It's really neat. It has that harvest feel to it, but it's not roasty and spicy like the Duluth cider would have been. It's more of that kind of bright, fruity part of the harvest.
And every single one of these is bringing the flavor.
Yes.
You know, none of these are boring like Strongbow can be or those other mass-produced ciders can be. They're not forgettable. They have their own personality and character, and that is what cider is all about. It's all about who the cider maker is. What are they trying to do with those apples? What are they trying to do with their flavor profiles? What sort of landscapes and seasons are they trying to evoke with their ciders? I mean, this put you right into Door County, right? So
there you go.
A good cider, dare I say a great cider, can transport you to a different place.
All right, man, well, at the start of this video series, I told you that I thought cider sucked, and I can't say that anymore. I think cider's really good, y'all. There's some amazing flavors that we got to try over the last 2 episodes, and I really do feel like my eyes have been opened to a wider world of apple-based beverages that I didn't even know existed.
What would you say if you had to pin down a favorite?
Oh man, you know, from Minnesota, I think my favorite was the number 12. I just loved how drinkable, but also complex and deep it was. It really made me want to go back and have more sips. From our last episode, which you should, again, check out on YouTube via the playlist, my favorite one from there was probably the Cornish cider that you showed me. Just really cool. I'd never had anything quite like that before. The Spanish cider was also really delicious, really fun as well. So there's a lot to like out there, people. Even if you're a cider skeptic like me, give it a shot. There's some really good stuff. Don't miss out.
There's probably some stuff that you hate too. Tell me what it is in the comments. If you really do not like a cider style, I want to know.
All right, well, thank you all for going on this cider journey of exploration with me and Brian. Thanks to Brian for being my guru throughout this whole thing. I hope that we converted some other cider skeptics out there, and if not, well, sound off in the comments and let us know. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Dabbler Double Take, and we'll see y'all next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.